Hi everyone, welcome to Out of the Box Physical Therapy. I'm Mel Walkup. I am a travel physical therapist, and today, guess what I want to talk about? Something related to the COVID-19 pandemic, but I'm not really going to talk specifically about the virus itself. I feel like it's almost overwhelming how much information is out there right now on that. I mainly wanted to just give an update on how it's impacting Jess and I, and just the way it's causing us to take a deeper look at our budget, and the way it's causing us to change just how we're planning for the future. And I'm hoping that will ultimately give you all some good tips or maybe some strategies to implement for your own life. So this actually has impacted us already. My wife is a digital marketer and she works from home. That's how she can travel with me. But unfortunately, the business she works for is being hit really hard right now because of everything going on. And she's taking at least a 30% pay cut starting next week. So that caused us to sit down earlier this week and just discuss, like, what does our budget look like right now? What are things we should probably cut out? How are ways we can save a little bit more money in the time being in case things get worse? This ultimately made us kind of look back and be thankful about the fact that we have an emergency fund. Having an emergency fund is so important, guys. We had a discussion about that with a financial advisor a year ago, and we had savings and everything, but we didn't really have a goal in mind for it. And it was just helpful to have a conversation with someone who is basically like, hey, you should have like 6 months saved up just in case something happens. And so that's essentially what we did. We kind of estimated how much would we need to live on for 6 months or so if something crazy happened, and we maybe had to tap into that. Now, thankfully, we're not having to tap into that yet, and it's our ultimate goal to not have to tap into that emergency fund, but I'm really thankful that we have one in case we have to. So basically our discussion this week was, what can we cut out right now to hopefully avoid having to tap into the emergency fund for as long as possible. As some of you probably know, like, a big goal of mine and hers are to pay off our student loans in about 5 years. So we've been hitting those really hard the last 6 months, doing a really good job hitting all of our goals with that. But in the end, it's not essential right now. So that's a big chunk of money that we've decided to cut back on. We're just doing the minimum payments right now on loans and saving that extra money, keeping it in our own hands for now, just to see how everything starts to unravel in the coming months. So that's probably a pretty good tip for you all as well if you're putting a lot of extra money towards loans right now. And maybe you don't have an emergency fund, you might want to consider holding back for the time being, seeing how everything plays out for you as well, just in case that's the money you might need to actually survive on if things get a little tougher down the road. Unfortunately, this is already taking a huge toll on the economy. There are people who are losing their jobs right now. I do fear for my wife and her job, and if that's going to be something she'll still have a few months down the road. I know that there's some travel therapists who have lost contracts with everything going on, and we can't predict for these types of things to happen. You don't know when they're going to happen, and who would have thought that we'd be having a pandemic right now. Even in January, when things were already looking bad in China, I think most people weren't really thinking it'd be this bad come March. So that's the point of an emergency fund. You have it there for these crazy things that happen. And for any of you who don't have an emergency fund, like, just consider implementing some of those tips I just mentioned. Like, start saving money aside. If there's any luxury type subscriptions maybe you have to TV channels, it's one thing to just have Netflix, but do you have Netflix, Hulu, and Disney Plus? Maybe you don't need all three of those. Maybe you should cut a couple of them out, for example. Just those little things really add up over time. So if you don't have a budget already, I suggest you make one. It's super important. It made it so much easier for us to sit down, look at everything that we're spending money on, and just be like, we're cutting this out right now, we're keeping this right now, and we did it in like 20 minutes. So have a budget. Think about what's a priority right now. Start building a savings now if you don't have one already. And I can't say like what's gonna happen in the next few months, you know, like what are things gonna look like? What's the job market gonna look like? Like those are things I can't say or give an answer on, but all we can do right now is control the way we're reacting to everything going on day to day. And I think that something that gives me a small sense of control is at least having this budget in place and feeling like we're doing everything we can to save up in case things get really bad and we have a few months where we're not working. All that being said, another thing you can really control day to day is just your mental health, your emotional health. Be sure you're taking care of yourself. Eventually, we're going to be on the other side of this. Things are eventually going to be better than what they are right now. We're already seeing that with China. And so just keep that in mind. Try and find comfort in that there's going to be an end to this chaos eventually. So that's all I have for you today. I hope everyone's doing okay out there. If you have any other questions just about things we're doing to kind of plan for all of this, feel free to comment below. Also, like, how's this impacting you? What are things you're trying to do to just prepare for the future and have a plan in place? See y'all next time. Bye.